Hello everyone. In the previous video we were talking about the complete dominance and how the dominant it will appear as a phenotype if one of the genotype it carries only one of these allele as dominant. Okay, now we want to talk about our traits are inherited and what are the things that are responsible. We were talking about the dominant. Now I want to talk about some characteristic or result of several gene acting together. Yani if you look at this one here, let's go back. Okay, let's go back to this one. Here for each one from mom and the one from the dad, this is chromosome from mom and this one from dad. Both of them, they are homologous chromosome, and a segment of DNA which is called what? A gene. A different variation from mom and dad genes, they are called alleles. In dominant, we said one of them it will appear if the dominant and the other one is recessive will not appear in the presence of the if the dominant one, right? Here for one gene, this one is responsible for example ear size. Actually, for some traits we have them, maybe this gene from both mom and dad and this one. Okay, the presence of many genes together, they are responsible for one trait. Okay, like for example, let's go back here. Some characteristics are a result of several genes acting together. Sometimes one gene influences more than one trait. Sometimes also one gene it can affect more than one trait. Okay, for example, let's talk about this one here. This is an example. For example, many genetic disorders such as sickle cell anemia are linked to a single gene but affected many traits. It's only one gene, but this gene it will affect many traits. Yani it's not responsible only about one trait, one trait. It's all responsible for more than one trait. Okay, yani I'll give you another example is mentioned in your book. Okay, you can see this cute tiger. Okay, white tiger, this one here. Actually, for this one here, a single gene causes a tiger shown below, as you see here, this one here, to have white fur. If you look closely, you will see that the tiger also has a blue eye, which means one gene, this gene, okay, this one for example, is responsible for two traits, for white fur and blue eyes. Okay, you understand this one? So this gene is always give these two together, white with blue. You understand this one? So the gene that affects fur color also influences eye color. Okay, so this is for the first one, and the other one, which is the sickle anemia, like sickle cell anemia, here occurs in individuals who have two recessive allele. Actually, should be recessive allele. For a certain gene, this gene carries instructions for producing a protein. Okay, in red blood cells. When a person has sickle cell anemia alleles, that makes body makes a different protein. This protein causes red blood cells to be sickled or crescent shaped. When oxygen level, when they are in the sickle shape or a crescent shape, they won't be able to carry enough oxygen, or they can't carry oxygen well, because always the structure is related to the function. So sickle shaped blood cell can't stick in blood vessels also. They can stick these sickle. The first thing, they can't carry enough oxygen, and these cells they can stick in blood vessels, sometimes blocking the flow of blood. So these blood cells are also more likely to damage the spleen also. With fewer healthy red blood cells, the body may not be able to deliver oxygen to the body's organs. All of the traits associated with sickle cell anemia are due to single gene. So all these traits from only one single gene. Okay, then let's talk about other things that we inherited or how they appear. Sometimes, actually, for this one here. So let's continue. We have mentioned how one gene it can affect more traits for that you have, or some other organisms. For example, I'll give you example before I move to the another one. For example, the eye killer is a combination of different genes together. This one an example, okay. So different shades of eye color. These genes they are working together, okay. For a single gene, for example, as we mentioned for the tiger or for the sickle cell anemia. Then sometimes, let's talk about the third things. We studied now the complete dominance. It depends on which one is dominant and which one is not. The second one, we were talking about how more than one gene they are affected one trait, like the eye color. We have mentioned how one gene it can affect more than one trait. Okay, so now we want to talk about sometimes the environment can influence in an organism's phenotype. How the environment it will affect us. For example, some traits are acquired only from one's environment and are not inherited. For example, let's stop talking about this. I'll give you an example here is mentioned in your book, how the environment it will affect the trait. This one is another cute fox. And here, as you see, and this is beautiful actually fox, as you see. This fox here, he has a gene is responsible about the color of color of his fur. If this gene it can be affected by the light. If the here in the winter the Arctic fox has a white coat, so the color will be given to his fur is white coat. Okay, but during the summer for this fox, the same fox I'm talking, in the summer the Arctic fox has a brown coat, so the phenotype here is different depending on the light, because the light it will affect this trait. Okay, so here sometimes environment influences in organism's phenotype. This example, the Arctic fox has gene that is responsible for coat color. This gene is affected by the light. This one is an example of genes is affected by the light. So here, that's why in the winter, a fewer hours daylight, so less light, so the hairs make up the Arctic fox coat grows in white. But in summer, more light, so it will appear as brown. So this case here for both genes and the environment contribute to the organism's phenotype, which is a very important example. What about us as a human? For our genes may make it possible for you to grow to be tall. But what do you need to grow tall? You need a healthy diet to what? To reach your full height potential. For example, you inherited the genes from your parent to be tall, but if you don't have a healthy diet, you won't be able to get the height that you should. Got it now? So, actually, some traits that we learned from our surrounding that we don't inherit it. For example, the ability of reading, we don't inherit this from our parents, right? This you need to practice. You will have to work on it. These actually here, these traits, the ability of run, for example, maybe the ability to play football. These traits are sometimes acquired only from one's environment and are not inherited. For example, your ability to read and write is an acquired trait. Okay, I hope these examples are clear for you. if you still have a question about this, يعني you have to differentiate how the genes they have dominant and recessive, how some traits and these phenotypes depends on the genotype, how some traits they are affected by more than one gene, how some traits they are affected from only more than one trait is affected from one gene, how some genes they are working depending on the depending on the environment, and some acquired traits. If you have any question, you can send me your questions. Thank you for listening.